Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Facing the Pain. I'm someone, we're talking about something, and with me as always is somebody. What's up? That's the intro.
That's a far better intro than your previous two attempts, which is pretty amazing.
I'm a defeated man today, alright?
Why is that?
Because I spent my whole day going to downtown North Carolina and sitting in on Senate and House meetings and looking up court cases and writing about gerrymandering. Anyone who's ever listened to this podcast or follows me on Twitter or has ever read a word I've written knows this is stuff that just baffles me, and you're probably thinking, why are you doing all of this? You write basketball articles about which OKC Thunder players make for good fighters.
Have you wrote that?
I wrote that. It went up today.
I'm excited to hear it.
I ended up picking Anthony Morrow and Victor Oladipo.
Anthony Morrow? The fight?
Yeah, my reasoning was, remember when Payne and Westbrook were dancing last year, and that one guy who's no longer in the league interrupted him, and then the next game, Anthony Morrow was the enforcer. I feel like Anthony Morrow's sneaky tough, and he's the one who stepped up and called everybody out for not defending Westbrook, so I think he can scrap.
Who was the guy?
Charlie Villanueva.
Yeah, is he still in the league?
No, I don't think so. I haven't heard his name all year.
Yeah, he's not in the league anymore, so they were right.
Westbrook and that other guy?
And that other guy. We don't talk about him.
You know, we should just dedicate this episode to Dion Waiters, the greatest basketball player of all time.
He is not a defeated man.
He is not a defeated man. Is Dion Waiters playing tonight? That's the only man who can lift my spirits right now.
Let's see. Miami Heat. Unfortunately, no.
That's very disappointing.
They played on Thursday, so they played. Well, okay, so they played on Wednesday night. Sorry, and they in fact won.
Yeah, Dion Waiters had like another 30-point game.
Wow, double-digit Dion, but it's not any double-digit.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I once was told that he could ball.
You indeed were told that he can ball. And 2 years later, well, he had 24 points, not 33, but...
That's still really good for him.
Yeah, well, that is really good for him. Did I see you retweet an article that said Dion Waiters is OKC's biggest loss in the offseason?
Yeah, it was a blind retweet. I didn't read it.
Okay. Because A, you're a hypocrite. And B, how can Dion Waiters be OKC's biggest loss in the offseason?
Who else did they lose? Serge Ibaka?
Yeah, well, good question.
I would assume Serge Ibaka would be the biggest loss. He hit the game winner against them. That's a bigger loss than Dion Waiters. He sucked in both games against OKC.
I'm sure Dion Waiters isn't capable of sucking, so I would guess he did it on purpose as a respect for his former team.
That's very fair because they treated him well.
That's right. So what are we talking about other than defeated men? You know who else will be a defeated man?
Chael Sonnen.
No, he was a defeated man. I said, you know who else will be a defeated man?
Who?
Dan Quinn. Let's go.
Oh, I was like, who the fuck is Dan Quinn? I got it. Yep, blowout. That's not till next week, though. We don't talk about that yet.
Well, we'll preview the Super Bowl next week.
All right.
I will preview the Super Bowl next week as you listen. I promise you that is happening.
I'm super excited for that.
Okay.
Let's talk about Tito Ortiz against Chael Sonnen in the biggest
Super Bowl
fight.
of MMA.
Yeah, the biggest fight of all time. We talked about it last week. They dropped the ball on the coverage. They did have a press conference the couple days before the event where Tito... I got to get the exact quote because if you don't use the exact quote, then you're not doing Tito Ortiz justice.
I agree.
Here it is. I think everybody's starting to believe your lies now. Finally, your lies aren't becoming truth. Huh, buddy?
Can you read that again, please, so that the audience can process it?
I think everybody's starting to believe your lies now. Finally, your lies aren't becoming truth. Huh, buddy? I like the huh, buddy. Makes it over the top.
To be clear, that is aren't becoming truth, are not becoming truth. Just so that we're clear about this.
Everybody's believing your lies, and your lies are not becoming truth.
Therefore, finally, your lies are not becoming truth.
Right.
Apparently,
Huh, buddy.
Huh, buddy. The huh, buddy really accentuates the situation. I like that.
It sounds like it's a logic question. You know what I'm talking about? Like, if then...
Yeah, if like, huh, buddy, and you're supposed to like give the answer.
If everybody believes your lies, then your lies become truth.
Sounds like Trump.
Huh, buddy. That should be the answer.
Oh, what a guy Tito Ortiz is. And then he proceeded to beat the shit out of Chael Sonnen. I'm not actually sure if he landed a strike. He got a takedown. Sonnen went for a guillotine. Tito won a scramble, got on top, mounted him, went for an arm triangle, but Sonnen gave up his back, and then he tapped him out with a neck crank. They called it a rear naked choke, but it was a neck crank. And, yeah, what a fight that was. Why did you think Chael Sonnen was going to win this fight?
I don't know. We talked about this a couple of days ago, so I'll repeat it here. For some reason, first of all, I'm not trying to defend myself, but I think I can be forgiven for not particularly giving a shit about either individual. Actually, I should not be forgiven for not giving a shit about Tito Ortiz. So I apologize.
Right.
But about like not closely actually following what they've been doing. I mean, I was aware of their results, but for some reason, just as a matter of perception, for some reason, I thought Chael was the more relevant fighter in 2017. If relevant is the right word, because neither is. But I thought Chael was the more relevant fighter, that he's had, you know, the more competitive outings as of late, in spite of Tito's
Chael hadn't
win.
fought since 2013 prior to this fight.
That is my problem. For some reason, to me, it's like, okay, Chael, you know, UFC contender. You know, Tito left the UFC with like one win in his last like 6-7 fights or something. I mean, I know he was doing better in Bellator, but whatever. But like, Chael is Chael, you know what I mean? So I figured, yeah, like, Chael is still, honestly, I still thought Chael would out-wrestle him.
Why? Because he pinned him in a wrestling match 20 years ago?
He lost to him in a wrestling match 20 years ago.
I don't know whose story to believe, because Tito says he lost that wrestling match. And Chael said he lost, and he made a promise that he was going to avenge that loss.
This is like the first time where people are lying in reverse. They're like, no, I lost. No, I lost.
You got to build up sympathy for yourself.
Yeah. It's like, you kicked my ass, buddy. No, you kicked my ass. That's true trash talk right there.
I'm with you. I thought Chael was more active. Like, I knew he hadn't been good, but I did not think the fights against Rashad and Shogun were 5 years ago at this point.
Yeah,
I really thought they were more
also,
like 2 to 3 years ago.
Right. It was like, it's like, for me, it's just a matter of perception, a perception of time almost. It's like, yeah, okay, this guy submitted Shogun. Like, that was almost that was 3.5 years ago. Like, that was 4 years ago. That's a long ass time. So I don't know. I just
and it's Shogun
like,
4.5 years ago.
What's that?
And it's Shogun 4.5 years ago.
Exactly, and that is pretty telling. But I don't know. So I figured, like, yeah, Chael will out wrestle him, whatever. I should have paid more thought to the fact that
Tito has underrated jiu-jitsu. And Chael doesn't know how to defend jiu-jitsu.
That is actually all you needed to know for this fight. I honestly, for some reason, I completely neglected the fact that Chael's defensive wrestling has never been good. You remember Damian Maia throwing him on his ass, right?
Yeah, that was fantastic.
That was fantastic. I was honestly recently reminded of that fight. I'd completely forgotten about it. The combination of the throw, and he immediately transitioned to a triangle, is one of my favorite submissions of all time. Chael's defensive wrestling is nothing great. I really should have thought about that, plus the size difference and everything. I don't know. Why am I even justifying myself? It's Chael versus Tito. I don't know. I just picked a winner.
And then the fight was fixed, according to people.
I've heard that theory. Look, I mean, I never play the.
Did you see the video with the fake tap out that Tito had?
No.
Oh, well, I noticed it while watching it live, and when Chael has the front headlock, Tito kind of quickly hits his fingers against Chael or something. And when I saw it live, I was like, oh, well, I guess that could kind of be a tap out. And then when the video went up online of people saying, oh, look, he tapped out. And watching it then, it doesn't even look like he makes contact with Chael. It looks like he's trying to reach to break Chael's grip, and he just misses 3 times.
What if Tito messed up tapping out? What if he tried to tap out but missed and ended up winning him the fight?
It's very possible. I would not put it past Tito Ortiz.
That would be a great story.
I wrote my guide to when you're allowed to call a fight fixed.
Was that out?
Yeah, it came out today. I'll plug it on Twitter right now.
Yeah, I'll read it. One thing, seriously, one semi-serious takeaway from this fight. How long has Chael Sonnen been in the sport? When did he have... I'm going to check this out.
Yeah, I got it up right here. His first fight was in 1997, so 10 years. Or 20 years, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to make fun of your math. Yeah. You recovered right in that. 20 years. And this guy still can't defend a submission. It is baffling. And at one point, this guy was... I want to say elite. He was kind of elite at middleweight, wasn't he?
He was elite. I mean, he rightfully earned that title shot against Anderson Silva. And
remember, Marquardt and Okami were top 5 fighters when he beat him. Yeah. For sure. And he was literally 2.5 minutes away from not just becoming the middleweight champion, from beating the greatest fighter of all time in his prime.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way. It took Anderson Silva 3 more years to lose the title. You know what I mean? It's not like Silva was looking vulnerable. Yeah, he eked out that fight, and then 2 fights later, he lost his title. Silva retained the title for 3 more years. 3? 2010. Yeah, 3 more years. So Chael was elite at one point. How can you not have, or at least acquire or improve just basic submission defense? Okay, you get tapped out by Damian Maia after getting thrown and you don't know what hits you. Who doesn't get tapped out by Damian Maia? Well, I guess some people don't, but you know what I mean. That, like, you can be forgiven. But even that Anderson Silva triangle, that wasn't. I remember watching live. I was amazed that Chael tapped. I did not think that triangle was that deep, and it was such a basic setup
you
as
didn't
well.
listen to Joe Rogan.
Control. Was Joe Rogan yelling? It was the. I don't remember the call.
I don't either. That should have been, when we talk about Mike Goldberg, like, that should have been an iconic call. And
oh my God, it is all over.
And yeah, it was your typical Mike Goldberg.
You
call.
are right about that, because we're gonna go off on a tangent right away. So who cares? That has a legitimate claim to being the greatest title fight in UFC history. Because of the story and the comeback and the rivalry, the stakes, you know what I mean? Not in terms of action necessarily, but Anderson Silva looking human for the first time in his career and getting his he was just getting absolutely decimated for 4 rounds, or at least getting beat up for 4 rounds. It wasn't even competitive. And the crowd being super hot, Chael being minutes away from victory and delivering on every promise he made. Like, the trash talk leading up to that fight was... I know Chael's shtick with time had gotten pretty old, but back then it was a revelation. He sold the hell out of that fight. I think one thing Chael Sonnen deserves some credit for, he did help establish Anderson as a permanent draw.
Yeah, that fight did 600, and I mean the Maia fight did 500,
and that had BJ Penn on the card as well.
Yeah, that had Penn, Edgar, and it had Matt Hughes as well. And like, if any fight was going to kill your drawing ability, that would have been the fight to do it.
Exactly, because that is important to keep in mind. Like, Anderson's stock was at an all-time low because 3 out of his previous 4 fights were just shams.
Yeah, Anderson fights had drawn well prior to that, but they always had, because the 101 fight had BJ Penn, the fight against Talit Slates had Liddell on it.
Liddell,
yeah, but prior to that, like UFC 90 against Patrick Cote, that had nothing. I mean, it did 300.
He didn't draw well at all against Cote. It was like 300,000 or something.
Yeah, they'd kill for that today.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, back then, like 300 was really bad.
That was the baseline. Back then, that was literally like, that is like, okay, by default, if there's nothing on the card, that's what they're getting.
Yeah. Yeah, but Chael talking himself into that fight and talking throughout that fight really did sell it for a lot of fans, because it was the old thing. You either wanted to see if he could make good on all these promises, or you wanted to see Anderson kick his ass.
And the biggest testament that it was not a fluke in terms of Chael selling the fight is the rematch. The rematch did over 1 million, or close to 1 million.
Look up and see.
Or maybe I'm completely off, but I remember the rematch did huge.
Yeah, it did.
Number.
It did 925, but that also had Griffin and Ortiz 3. So I mean, let's give them a little credit.
Fuck out of here! Don't you even cry with that shit.
The final fight of Forrest's career and was supposed to be the final fight of Tito's career.
Almost the final fight of my career. You know what I'm talking about. Our career. True. It was the final fight of our career. Look, that rematch was something else. The build-up for the first fight and everything was fantastic, but the build-up for the rematch, I don't remember being... Actually, I do, but it's definitely... Let me put it that way. I haven't been as excited about a fight except for a few occasions. Anderson keeping quiet throughout, and then like 1 week prior to the fight in some press conference, he promises to break every bone in his body and every tooth. Remember that? Like he just completely lost it, and Anderson was like chillingly in a very almost psychopathic way, just promising that he's gonna kill Chael Sonnen, basically. I even think he used that word.
And then he hugged him.
He's not joking about this.
Then he hugged him and said he can come over and make a mistake.
that was the best. Anderson Silva was the greatest. I think that's a prominent theme on this podcast. But Anderson Silva really is the man. When he said that, he said his wife would cook him a steak because Chael kept saying that. He was like, well, you can come over for a barbecue. My wife would make you a steak. That was so great. Chael really, really helped just cement Anderson. To put it that way, almost sounds like he put him over in a pro wrestling way, which isn't obviously fair. But unless you want to play the fixed card, are you allowed to play the fixed card?
Yeah, you can play the fixed card for this fight because if it's a Scott Coker promoted main event, then that gives it a chance that it's fixed, and if it involves two guys over the age of 35, that increases the chances that it's fixed.
Oh, what about, I'm talking about Chael Anderson 1.
Oh, Chael Anderson 1?
By your criteria, are you allowed to play the fixed card?
Well, my criteria says you can play the fixed card on any fight ever, so yes.
Well, let's play the fixed card then.
Actually, I did use that as an example. Hold on. I'll give you the exact wording on it. But yeah, at the end of the column, I said you can play it on any fight ever. But using that one...
Which one that is?
Did one fighter dominate but somehow got finished?
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, it's called the money fix. And it's either the superior fighter just gets his ass kicked the whole time, knowing he can finish it late, or the superior fighter just loses on purpose to set up the rematch.
Well, there you go.
Connor versus Nate 1 was also fixed, based on this rule.
Can't wait to read your column. Yeah, basically, Chael Sonnen in the UFC, when he did his thing, that's the thing with Chael. He never became a draw himself. I remember people really overestimated his comeback. His first fight after the steroid suspension, post Anderson fight, was against Brian Stann.
Yeah,
on a card that had 2 title fights. The Edgar Maynard rematch, or I guess it was the third fight, and the Aldo Florian fight, and that card did nothing. It's a number they'd kill for now, but it was like...
It did 225.
225? Okay, maybe they wouldn't kill for that now. That's even lower than
really bad, though.
That is terrible. For such a great card and one that had 2 title fights, yeah, that was terrible. And back then, that was alarming because...
Yeah, it not only had 2 title fights, but that second Edgar Maynard fight was so good as well that you really thought...
Yeah, you figured exactly.
Like it was
at least 400,000. Yeah. I would have, you know what I mean? Like, by default, you would think, okay, they'll draw 400,000. So, yeah, he alone was never able to draw, but definitely... he made something out of the Anderson-Silva rivalry, and that alone was a success.
Yeah.
But that's only his personality. As far as this fighting goes, yeah, when he was elite at that point, but his problems were always the same. And it really feels like to me, it is amazing how a grappling-based fighter... He is a wrestler, first and foremost, almost exclusively. Never just develop basic submission defense. I don't understand. If you're getting tapped out by a Tito Ortiz neck crank, something is wrong. And, okay, you can be washed up, you can be past your prime, all you want. But this was basic technique. This was just fundamentals aspect of MMA that you either have or don't have. It's not like he got rocked or beat up or anything. It was just taken down and just tapped out in a matter of minutes. So, I don't know. Chael Sonnen, I give him credit, like I said, for being able to sell the Anderson rivalry really well in the UFC. But I ultimately feel that'll end up being his legacy and the guy who choked big time. In fairness, he should have been the WEC middleweight champion at one point. That Paulo Filho second fight was something else.
That was definitely something else.
When he talked to Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, that fight. But let's talk about the winner.
Yeah, it was Tito's last fight. Tito's a guy who doesn't get enough credit. We've always been harsh on Tito for good reason. But he fought for what he believed in, and he was always classy.
What?
I don't know.
Look.
He was always classy. Remember when... My favorite Tito Ortiz moment is after he beat Ken Shamrock for the third time, and then he flipped him off, and he did the grave digger thing, and he told him to suck it and everything, and Shamrock's like trying to walk over to him and apologize and like make amends and everything, and then once Tito calms down, they finally hug, and Mike Goldberg says, "Oh, classy as always, Tito Ortiz."
Well... should have been pure class.
It might have been pure class, but yeah, he got called classy after flipping the guy off and burying him in the octagon.
Maybe pure class is reserved for Randy Couture. Tito...
And
honestly,
Chris Lieben.
Chris Lieben. One thing about Tito, like... He was easy to hate when he was relevant because he is kind of obnoxious, honestly. Once we stopped taking him seriously, it's just like unintentional comedy, so we appreciate him. And everybody who listens to this podcast know how much we appreciate unintentional comedy. Hence, providing Mike Goldberg with a tribute on literally every podcast. We need to talk about that. You heard Mike Goldberg's comment with Ariel Helwani?
Yeah, where Dana White didn't call him.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I texted you that. You didn't respond to me, just like Dana White.
Oh, nice. Well, I had a better excuse than Dana White. Anyway.
I don't know. Dana White might have a pretty good excuse.
What was Ariani up to that night? I'm not implying anything.
Ronda is against Trump, so that relationship is on the rocks.
Ooh, Ronda said she's against Trump?
Yeah, she went up to Standing Rock to help the protest because Trump is trying to get that pipeline going again.
You see the retweet? You see my retweet from a few minutes ago?
I'll have to check on that right now.
Well,
I don't actively look at Twitter while doing this podcast, Samer.
Well, I'll just read it for you. Don't worry.
Okay.
Donald J. Trump, at Real Donald Trump, on October 7, 2013. Quoting Isaac Newton.
I see it.
We build too many walls and not enough bridges.
Yeah, Isaac Newton said it, not Trump. That doesn't mean Trump agrees with it.
Then why did he tweet that quote?
Retweets are not endorsements, Samer.
But he did not retweet Isaac Newton. You can't retweet Isaac Newton.
Quotes are not endorsements.
Say that on Twitter.
What did he say after that? Go all the way back down his timeline and see if he said Isaac Newton is a moron.
Sad. With an exclamation point in the end. That's how every Trump tweet ends. Isaac Newton thinks gravity is real.
Isaac Newton is a disaster. Tell your NAFTA disaster story because that cracked me up.
So, okay, I'm doing a master's. I'm doing my master's in business law, and there's a class called investment law. And first class of the semester, the professor was talking about. He was basically giving a general outlook for the rest of the semester. So he's briefly talking about the topics we'll be covering, and among them was NAFTA. So you see like NAFTA on the PowerPoints and like a bunch of brief descriptions. And he says, before we go into detail, who knows anything about NAFTA? And I just couldn't resist a joke. I said, NAFTA is a disaster, one of the biggest disasters in the history of the U.S. And I'm laughing as I'm saying it, and I can't believe I'm saying it out loud. There were only like 6 students because it was only the first class, And, like, all 5 of them were just staring at me like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy laughing alone? And they didn't even think I was laughing at my own joke because I don't think they knew it was a joke. Like, they didn't understand why, like, I was so glee while saying that. And the professor didn't know how to react. And he goes, well, I mean, yeah, I wasn't necessarily asking for personal opinions. I wanted to actually know if you guys knew what NAFTA actually is. And I was laughing so hard, I couldn't actually explain to him that I was referring to what Trump said. And I was like, just fuck it. I'm just laughing. So, yeah, that's a very good first impression again.
I like how our conversations have more or less carried over into your classroom. And that's kind of troubling and worrisome for how you're going to do in this class.
It is. It is weird. Like, our inside jokes have carried over to my academic life.
Yeah.
It's kind of. I worry about what I'm going to write on my first exam now. Yeah, I don't know. If I start writing wacky theories, then I'm done.
You needed me to come up with wacky theories for some class you were taking, and then I pissed you off with what I came up with. I don't even remember what it was. But
oh yeah, okay. So it was. I remember it was the last semester. I was taking a class called Oil and Gas Law, and the teacher is. He's one of those, like, just. I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast, which I'm really highly doubt.
I'm 99.9% sure he's not going to listen to this podcast.
I fully agree. The professor is, like, completely eccentric, and he's just weird. So towards the end of the semester, he's super cool, by the way, but anyway, towards the end of the semester, he just randomly asked us, like, if you guys want extra points on the upcoming final exam, there's like an assignment you can make. And I seriously thought when he said what the assignment was, I thought it was like a joke. I thought it would be something that has to do with the actual subject of the class. Turns out the assignment is like, what is your dream and how do you plan on achieving it? But the dream has to be like comedic and you have to make us laugh. So don't like get corny. He literally, like, he just said that. Like, don't say, I dream of becoming, like, I don't know, like, it has to be something unrealistic and funny.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't mine. I was going to be the OKC GM, and how I achieved it was, I don't remember how I achieved it.
You came up with so many, like, basically it was just a bunch of inside jokes. I went to you for wacky theories because that's what you do. When you took that journalism law class, you went to me for help, and I helped you. And I figured, well, wacky theories, who better than my boy? But you were useless. I legit got pissed at you because you were just making these dumb jokes. Like, you had one job, come up with wacky theories.
Oh, I'm sorry I failed you in that time.
Well, anyway, in the end, I just, like, I might have been a bit drunk, and I wrote that I want to build an army of robots and conquer the world.
So you want to be president of the U.S.?
Oh, dude, it was. So I sent him the. I've never told that story. Okay, so I don't know why we're talking about this on the air, but you okay, so I was completely drunk / high, and I go like, all right, I'm just gonna go like, okay, build an army of robots and conquer the world, and part of my plan was to invade the United States with my army of robots. And I start writing stuff about, like, invading the Octagon. The Pentagon, well, the Octagon would have been tougher to do with legit hand-to-hand combatants protecting it, like Ronda Rousey. So it was, like, invading the Pentagon and whatever, but I sent him my whole plan by email. It was through Gmail. And I get this response by him where he goes like, dear Sammer, you're fictional. And he writes fictional in all caps and bold. story is highly creative. However, I do not, and like do not is in bold and all caps, endorse this sort of violence and whatever. And I stress that this is not what the assignment was meant to be about and whatever. And like, I knew that he was trying to cover his own ass. He saw me in class that next week and he called me over. He's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? I travel to the U.S. on a monthly basis. If someone reads this shit, I'll get arrested for terrorism at JFK, and I was just laughing my ass off. Like, it was pretty hilarious. I highly doubt the U.S. government are monitoring his emails, but who knows? Maybe they are.
You never know.
So, yeah, I've never told you that story.
No, you never told me that one.
Yep,
that's pretty good. I like your theory of taking over the U.S. with robots.
Yeah, should have been better than, surely turned out to be better than being the GM for the OKC Thunder.
I don't know how you're going to get into the U.S. with these robots, though. We're going to have a fucking wall to prevent you.
Well, that's why I meant to do that before your president builds one. But, I mean, robots are not going to get stopped by a wall. They can, like, fire missiles and shit. Have you seen Transformers?
Unfortunately, yes, I have.
That's talking about the cartoon, not the shitty Michael Bay movies.
Oh.
But sure, Megan Fox was looking hot as shit in those movies, though.
She was.
She really, really was. But, yeah, what were we talking about again? Speaking of robots, let me tell you how you're feeling right now. Tito Ortiz. What a great segue. Seamless.
Tito is a guy who probably didn't get enough credit. I mean, he was there with the Dark Ages and everything. And, like, that UFC 40 fight against Ken Shamrock, do you remember who was in the house for that fight?
Tito is in the house. That was the first semi-big deal in MMA, I think.
Yeah, that was the first, like... And Shamrock obviously had a lot to do with it as well, coming off of pro wrestling. But Tito helped sell that fight with his attitude and everything. Yeah, that was a big deal. And the fights against Couture and Liddell. Like, the 66 fight against Chuck was still the first one that broke 1 million buys. And, again, you've got to give
For
Tito...
a long time was the biggest buy rate in UFC history until UFC 100, I think.
Yeah.
So it took UFC 100, headlined by Lesnar versus Mir 2 by St. Pierre and Alves to break that. Sorry, but I completely messed up the main event. You can share it with the audience.
Fitch and Thiago.
Exactly. John Fitch versus Paulo Thiago. So, it took some pretty heavy armory to shatter that buy rate. But not only that, I think Tito's historical significance is twofold. First, the Huntington Beach bad boy bullshit was kind of dumb towards the end because it's been so played out and he wasn't winning much, so it felt kind of silly. But at the time, he was one of the first to be like, okay, look, fighters aren't supposed to be, I mean, he didn't say it in as many words, but he wasn't worried about being classy or how he would be perceived, especially at a time where the sport is, still recovering from its human cockfighting reputation. So he didn't care about being the bad boy. He used that to sell fights and to market his own image, and he did it successfully. Like, obviously, he thinks he's a far better trash talker than he actually is, which makes him hilarious.
He is the best trash talker.
Well, I guess my lies are finally true with her, buddy. So, and beyond that, I think his biggest contribution to the sport is really elevating the light heavyweight division to be the gold standard in MMA. It is, it's by far the most, historically at least, it's the most prestigious, most sort of historically rich division in MMA in terms of star power, in terms of the actual fights that happen, in terms of the fighter it's produced. Remember, there was a time where what everybody cared for was, who are better, the Pride light heavyweights? I mean, they were called middleweights, but it's the same thing. Or, the UFC light heavyweights. Vanderlei Silva versus Chuck Liddell dominating the world, Shogun winning the Grand Prix. I'm not giving Tito credit for what happened in Pride, but my point is the history of the UFC light heavyweight division, Tito Ortiz helped put that on the map. He was one of MMA's first really dominant champions. I mean, he and Matt Hughes. So for that, I'm not being a hypocrite because I honestly was never a Tito fan. In fact, I pretty much disliked him until he became irrelevant. But there is props to be given, and I don't think it's unfair to Tito to... Or sorry, I think it would be unfair to Tito to not at least acknowledge that he helped put the light heavyweight division on the map.
He was also a guy who knew that fighters should have been paid more.
Right. That is actually a very good point.
Yeah, he always, he had multiple disputes with the UFC over money and his payment. That's why he went away as often as he did. Because he just knew that he was worth more than they were paying him. And he was really the first guy to do that. As much as I love Chuck, he was always a guy, I don't really care, I just want to fight.
He's the company man.
Yeah.
That's why Dana White loves him so much. Because he just said yes and did, whatever they asked him to do.
Yeah, Tito was really the first guy who... And maybe BJ Penn to an extent. But, yeah, Tito was there really trying to defend fighters. And I think he got a bad rap for that because fighters are dumb and most of them are company guys.
Yeah, and Dana White's propaganda worked.
Right.
That really is what changed. Dana White hammered the point home so much and went after Tito Ortiz so hard throughout the years that Tito came off looking like the bad guy in this. And I think we all fell for that. I think even I would admit that in this quote-unquote feud, to me, Tito Ortiz was the idiot. But looking back in hindsight, what was wrong about his demands?
That, you remember that Bad Blood special they did with Tito and Dana?
No.
Oh, that completely buried Tito. And he was, when you talk about people fell for this, it kind of killed him as a draw in the UFC.
What year was that?
I'm going to look it up right now. It was after the Chuck fight, obviously.
The second Chuck fight?
Yeah. But it was so one-sided toward... it was 2007 is when it came out.
Okay.
And, it was so one-sided towards Dana White, of course. And it was also... Remember they were supposed to have that boxing match?
Right. That was the biggest missed opportunity in MMA history.
And Tito didn't show up to it, and they completely buried him for that. It really painted Tito in a negative light. I think it was after the Rashad fight, because the Rashad fight was only a few months, I guess it was 7 months after the Chuck fight, and then they had the big dispute, and Tito went away for about a year before he came back and lost to Machida. But yeah, I think it came out shortly after the Rashad fight when they had another dispute, and it kind of, in fairness, Tito, what did he really have left after that Rashad fight? It was clear he was more or less past his prime at that point. But anything he did have left, that kind of killed it. And
then they gave him Lyoto Machida. There isn't more petty matchmaking than that. Remember, Machida at the time was the guy who was, supposedly boring, but that basically nobody can figure out. And they were like, all right, let's have him embarrass Tito Ortiz, basically. Yeah, and at the time it was great because everybody hated Ortiz. So they were like, yeah, exactly. Tito's coming back? Sure, we're going to watch Lyoto just tool him. And that's what happened. Did Tito have, didn't he have a bright moment in that fight?
I think it was in the third round. Yeah, in the third round he did something.
A triangle, maybe?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I thought it was a submission. It was a triangle or a guillotine. I don't remember which one, but yeah, it was a bright spot for Tito, but that fight was never competitive.
Yeah, Machida hit him with a knee to the body that just killed him.
Yeah.
It didn't. I mean, he didn't end the fight, but yeah, like it was just a complete domination by Machida, which is, I mean, what's to be expected. But yeah, they gave Tito that fight to basically have no chance of winning. So yeah, there was a lot of bias there in the way the UFC treated Tito Ortiz, and I'm not like throwing a pity party to Tito Ortiz, who still once tweeted a picture of his dick. So yeah, that was unfortunately hard to unsee. And for some reason, that image is very clear in my head. And as you could all tell, I'm right now, for some reason, thinking about it. So,
well,
I hate Tito Ortiz, basically. I'm back to hating Tito Ortiz now.
Let's move on from Tito Ortiz and Chael Sonnen. It was a...
Jameson, which is not an accomplishment, but whatever.
Do what now?
I said he banged Jenna Jameson, which is not an accomplishment.
Unless you're Michael Chavello, who marked out over that.
Well, Michael Chavello's a moron. Remember the Tito Ortiz feud with Mark Coleman?
I'm kind of sad we never got that fight.
What a fight that would have been. I would have went with Mark Coleman if they were to fight at that time.
You would have been wrong.
I think Mark Coleman would have taken him down. That was, 2009, 2010? Mark Coleman had taken Stephan Bonner down and beat him. Didn't Mark Coleman beat Stephan Bonner in UFC 100?
Mark Coleman did beat Stephan Bonner, and then the UFC was going to feed him to Brock Lesnar, and Coleman...
Oh my God, dude. That fight...
No, they were going to feed him to Lesnar before that.
Yeah, that was Heath Herring.
Yeah.
When Heath Herring fought Lesnar, it was supposed to be Mark Coleman.
Yeah.
Which is like... This is why you tweeted recently about some story that the promoter is not your friend. I think there is no better indication than feeding Mark Coleman to Brock Lesnar. Would that not have been... That could have been murder.
It would have been really bad. Really bad. I mean, the Heath Herring fight was really bad, and Heath Herring was relevant and decent at that time.
Right.
Like, Mark Coleman hadn't fought in God knows how long and was already 40, and yeah.
Was that the last fight in Heath Herring's career?
I feel like he actually had some fights in Japan afterwards. I'm going to check it now. There was rumors that they wanted to bring him back, honestly. Yeah, he did. He actually fought December 2016. He fought in the Ryzen Grand Prix that Mirko Krokop won.
Oh, that was his first fight since the Lesnar fight.
Yeah.
Wow, it took him over 8 years.
Well, that's what Brock Lesnar will do to a guy.
That Rising Grand Prix is something else. They managed to bring out name. I wonder which Japanese promoter was like, you know who we should bring back? Heath Herring. One thing, remember Damir Guliotta
eye poking him? Yeah.
The guy.
You knew it was going to be a bad night right then.
Yep. You got eye poked before the fight even started by the referee. So, yeah. My favorite part of that fight was not the eye poke, though. You know what's my favorite part of that fight?
I don't. The flying knee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lesnar opened with a flying knee. It was the worst looking flying knee I've ever seen.
He's going to open with a flying knee at the Rumble on Sunday, too.
Oh, Lesnar's back for the Rumble?
Yeah, the Rumble is pretty stacked. I'm hyped for the Rumble.
Is Kevin Nash back?
I don't think so.
Then it's not. Maybe he'll be a surprise entrant again.
But Goldberg is in there, so maybe Kevin Nash will come out and throw him out.
Who's the favorite to win it this year? Triple H?
I don't know. It's very up in the air. Undertaker seems to be a favorite.
Undertaker?
Yeah.
What?
Anybody who isn't on the roster and on TV every week is a favorite.
So Goldberg is a favorite?
Goldberg is a favorite. Lesnar is a favorite. Samoa Joe is a dark horse favorite. There's a few guys, again, basically anyone who's not on TV every week. If it's a part-timer or a guy making his debut or coming back.
I'm going to watch. You sold me. I'm going to watch.
And on the undercard, AJ Styles wrestles the all-time GOAT.
Unsold me. I'm not watching. John Cena's going to beat AJ Styles to win the title. The Undertaker is going to win the Royal Rumble, and they're going to have Cena versus Taker at WrestleMania.
That is one theory that's out there.
Oh, really? It is?
Yeah.
I'm a genius.
The other theory is that Roman Reigns is going to win the title from Kevin Owens, and Undertaker is going to win the Rumble, and they're going to do Undertaker and Roman Reigns.
Ugh, what a terrible match that would be. Seriously.
Yeah, I don't like Undertaker.
How pissed off people would be if Roman Reigns beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
I mean, it would happen. Like, why are you going to put the title on The Undertaker?
No, but I'm talking about the live audience.
Oh, yeah, I know. I agree.
Did you say you don't like The Undertaker?
I don't like him winning the Royal Rumble in 2017.
Oh, yeah, that would be... Dude, the last time I saw The Undertaker... wrestle. Oh, actually, I saw the Shane match, but it was against Lesnar, and he looked like shit at WrestleMania when the streak was accidentally over, according to your friend. And he looked like shit then, and that was almost 3 years ago.
He was bad. The Shane match was terrible. Like
the Shane match was terrible. The spot was cool, but everything else was just garbage.
Yeah, the Lesnar matches, the SummerSlam match, and the Hell in a Cell matches weren't bad. The Bray Wyatt match the year after the Lesnar WrestleMania match was bad.
Oh, that was the worst.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
That was
terrible.
A good match. Yeah, Undertaker in 2017, it's just... That's one thing I just don't like about WWE is their reliance on these part-time guys to just sell everything and... not getting over the guys who were there.
And if you're going to do that, at least bring back Kevin Nash.
Sure.
Is The Rock going to fight Vin Diesel at WrestleMania?
I don't know. The Big Show's fighting Shaq, though.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's legit.
So Big Show is going to be the only man to hold losses to Shaq and Floyd Mayweather?
And Shawn Michaels is rumored to possibly be at the Rumble. So is Kurt Angle. Both rumored.
Kurt Angle, I've read he's signed a deal with WWE, and he's probably going to be another part-timer, right?
He's going into the Hall of Fame this year. So that's the deal they kind of signed.
I like Kurt Angle.
And he apparently got pulled from his bookings that he was supposed to have this weekend, which shows that he might show up at the Rumble. There's a lot of rumors floating around. It's a very intriguing.
But wait, Shawn Michaels? He's not going to actually participate, is he? Like, he's stressed multiple times that the Undertaker match was his last match.
He has stressed it, but from what I've read, they're working really hard to convince him because it's in San Antonio. It's in the Alamo Dome, and so
Rumble.
Rumble was.
So they just want to bring it up as like as a surprise entrant to get a pop, basically.
Right.
Oh, I thought they might get him in some program for WrestleMania.
They feel if they can get him to do a surprise entrance in the Rumble, that they can possibly get him to do one more match, and if they're going to push anybody for it, it's going to be someone like AJ.
AJ Styles versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. I would die if that were to happen.
It would be fantastic.
I would pay $500 to see that. Legit.
It'd be a great
Who
match.
would you rather see? AJ Styles versus Shawn Michaels or Daniel Bryan versus Shawn Michaels? WrestleMania.
Now? Probably Styles.
You're dumb.
I love Daniel Bryan.
How long has it been since Daniel Bryan wrestled? 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years at WrestleMania was more or less his last match.
Yeah, you put that guy in the gym for a while and he can warm up a bit.
Yeah, he'll be fine. Like, like I have the match would be great. Can we just do a triple threat match?
Oh, I actually thought about that. I don't like the WWE formula for I actually generally don't like triple threat matches.
Yeah,
but
I don't think the WWE formula is good either. But you put those guys out there, like they'll break that formula. Like they're not going to tell Shawn Michaels that you can't do it your way. And Bryan's got one match left. Like, what are they going to do to him? So, yeah, they won't give a fuck about this formula.
Our fantasy booking is going to be way better than anything WWE does.
My fantasy booking in my wrestling simulator for WrestleMania is the three goats in the main event. Can you guess who they are?
John Cena, because you're dumb.
Yes, that's correct.
AJ Styles.
That is correct.
You're less dumb. And one more goat. Is it an active fighter?
No. He did win his
Shawn
last
Michaels?
match, but his last match was a year ago.
When his last match? Last match was a year ago.
Yes.
The Rock?
That's right.
Yeah, I forgot that was a match against Bray Wyatt. Like, not Bray Wyatt, one of the Wyatt guys. 6 seconds, WrestleMania record.
Yeah.
What a great moment that was. Then Cena makes the save. WrestleMania moment. Classic. Followed by one of the most classic exchanges ever.
That was my favorite moment of WrestleMania, our text exchange.
What were we talking about? Tito Ortiz?
Let's preview UFC on Fox right fast.
Okay, surprise me, because I don't know what the card is about.
The main event is Valentina Shevchenko against Juliana Pena. Main event anywhere in the world. And it's main event on Saturday.
Anywhere in the world. Can I not break the fight down?
I think Shevchenko wins. I like her. I think she's good. I don't think too highly of Juliana Pena.
First of all, Juliana annoys me for no reason, but she does. Secondly, one of my favorite soccer players of all time is called Andrei Shevchenko. So,
great analysis.
Sammer skis to victory. One fighter has a better name, the other fighter annoys me.
I think Shevchenko is legit pretty good. What she did to Holly Holm, who was supposed to be the best striker in the division, was fairly legit. And
that was surprising. Not necessarily that Holly Holm lost, but it was a complete ass kicking.
Yeah, and Holly Holm was supposed to be, again, the best striker in the division, and Shevchenko outstruck her for 25 minutes.
I actually think Shevchenko will destroy her.
Juliana Pena?
Destroy. Yeah.
All right. I don't know about destroy. I can't take any of these women to destroy.
I'm going destroy. Take it to the bank.
Fair enough.
That's a slightly better analysis than my previous one. But I honestly think she's going to crush her.
Co-main event is actually really solid. It should be 5 rounds. George Masvidal against Donald Cerrone. Pretty hyped for this fight. It's a really
Donald
good
Cerrone fights every week, dude.
Yeah, and I always get hyped for Donald Cerrone fights because...
No, you should be, because, I mean...
They're always good.
Exactly, but how does this guy fight so much? I read a tweet that said, now it makes sense, because I read a tweet that said, it was quoting Donald Cerrone as saying, I called Dana White 3 times for the Masvidal fight.
Well, he got it.
He fought last month.
Yeah, he fought December 10th.
Great man.
I'm pretty sure his goal is to just fight once a month.
Well, I'll say this. He's looked much better at welterweight than I thought he would look.
He's looked really good at welterweight.
I thought his length had always given him such an advantage at lightweight, and the fact that he was never a great wrestler or anything.
Masvidal fought last month too, by the way. Just throwing it out there.
What's that?
Masvidal fought last month as well.
Oh, okay. just back to Cerrone real quick for a second. The fact that he's not a great wrestler, I think, was gonna hinder him at welterweight. Granted, he hasn't fought great wrestlers. I mean, Rick Story doesn't count. Let's be honest. But it's not just that he's looked good. Like his strikes have been overpowering. You know what I mean? Like he's hurting people. He's finishing people. He's looked much better than I thought he would. He's even getting hit less. Which is not to say that his defense is great or anything, because still his head movement is legit among the worst among good fighters. But he's fighting more maturely, I think.
I think Cerrone wins this fight.
I think he wins this fight, but I'm just talking about Cerrone in general.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Unless Masvidal can trap Cerrone's toe in the cage again.
Yeah, that should be his finishing move. That would be his new gimmick.
It should.
Do you think the commission would outlaw it as a result?
It would be like when WCW outlawed the power bomb and he gets fined and taken away in handcuffs if he tries it.
Remember when Kevin Nash and Sid Vicious had a powerbomb match, and Nash gets powerbombed, obviously, but there was a ref bump, and when the ref wakes up, Nash tells him that he powerbombed Sid, and the ref believes him and awards him the win?
Kevin Nash is the ultimate worker.
Dude, that should happen. That should be a new thing in pro wrestling, where after every ref bump, you get to tell the ref what happened, and it'll be like, all right. So you'd be like, yeah, I pinned him for 18 seconds. You just were out. And
only Kevin Nash could get away with that, though, because, as you say, when this guy talks, you just believe everything he says.
That is actually very, very true. The ref would have been at first oh, you gotta be shitting me. You expect me to believe this? And then Kevin Nash would start talking to him about, I don't know, Donald Trump. And the ref would be like, yeah, okay, I guess you win.
The ref could have seen Kevin Nash get powerbombed, and then Nash got up and said, I powerbombed him, and he still would have awarded Nash the match.
Kevin Nash is the most convincing human being in the world when he's speaking.
Kevin Nash should run for president.
He should, and he would win. Would he win? I don't think he'd win.
Fuck, he'd win. I'm just gonna assume everybody wins at this point. If Donald Trump can win, anybody can win.
I asked you a dumb question the other day. If Michael Jordan were to run, would he win? But in hindsight, I think that is really. I really think he would win easily.
Would Michael Jordan be a good president? It punches executives in the face if they weren't getting the job done.
Michael Jordan, it depends. It depends. I think
he's not a very good GM.
He's not a very good GM.
Actually, the Hornets aren't bad, in fairness.
His first term will be bad,
yeah,
but maybe he'll succeed in his second term. In the final year, he'll be fantastic because Jordan in the finals was just unplayable. And then he'll come back for a 1-year term and ruin everything he did. Exactly. He will do that as well. Then midway through one of his reigns, he will just disappear randomly for a while. Then
on
come
an
back.
Email scandal.
There's what other parallels could we draw?
I don't know. He needs a good running mate. He needs a really good vice president, and he'll probably pick a really good vice president.
He will lose. Obviously, he will lose the popular vote in the city of Detroit.
I think he's going to lose the popular vote in the city of Utah too.
For different reasons, though.
Yeah.
In Detroit is just because he doesn't win in Detroit. It's that simple. In Utah, yeah. I think Brian Russell would personally run a campaign against him.
I'm for this. I have this idea that instead of narrowing it down to 2 for the presidency, I mean, I guess it's more than 2 to start with, but it's not that many more. It should just be like the NCAA tournament. You just put 64 candidates in there, and we just go through it tournament style. A
battle royal.
Yeah.
I've got a question. Would would Michael Jordan be the best president to come out of Chicago?
Yes.
Oh, you're taking shots at Obama.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Obama was fine. Any president always gets looked upon better than when they were there, especially when Trump is the person.
Yeah, I mean, when you're
you.
the following act is Donald Trump, you're going to look really good by comparison.
Yeah, like Obama, really, I think he was fine as a president. I didn't agree with everything he did. But when, Trump is the guy who follows you, Obama looks like the best president ever.
That wall is apparently going to cost $25 billion.
And, well, it's fine. Mexico's paying for it.
So how much is that in pesos?
Andre Arlovski fights Francis Ngannou. I don't know who Francis Ngannou is.
I'm amazed Andre Arlovski is like.
How old is Andre Arlovski?
I would say 37. No, he's older than 37. I would say 38.
Should have gone with your gut. 37.
Oh, I'm really good at guessing these.
We'll go with Ngannou. Like, what does Andre Arlovski have at this point?
I used to really like Andre Arlovski, like the fangs and the whole.
Was cool.
When what happened to him in his last fight?
He lost to Josh Barnett in an absolutely dreadful fight.
I'm still going with Andre Arlovski. I have a soft spot in my heart.
He's lost 3 straight.
He's winning this. He's rebounding.
All right.
The pit bull is back, baby. He ain't going nowhere.
Can you name Andre Arlovski's last win?
I
actually don't remember this fight. I see who it's against, but I have no recollection of this fight.
I think he surprisingly won I remember being surprised at one of his wins. I can't remember who it was against. I quit. Who did he beat?
Frank Mir.
What a fight that was. That was 10 years in the making. Weren't they supposed to fight when Mir had his motorcycle accident?
Yeah.
Well, how did he win? Decision?
Decision.
Has Andre Arlovski finished anybody?
He finished Travis Brown. That was.
Oh, that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to say Travis Brown was his last win.
Yeah, that was 2015.
Edmund has really benefited Travis. Remember, Travis Brown was doing fine before Edmund. Wasn't he training with Greg Jackson?
I think he's at Top Team now. I think he left Edmund.
He just left Edmund, I know.
Yeah.
But is there a bigger downgrade in sports history, any sport, than going from Greg Jackson to Edmund? What would be the equivalent of that? Greg Popovich to Scott Brooks? Not Scott Brooks. Actually,
the Wizards are good right now.
What the hell happened?
He has a point guard who is coachable.
You and I were happy at the beginning of the year. It was like, yeah, we've been saying for years Scott Brooks is trash. Look at this team, whatever. And now, I guess ours was always better than yours.
Yeah, I don't know why we ever doubted Scott Brooks, the mad scientist.
I miss Scott Brooks.
I'm trying to think of the downgrade. I mean, yeah, Pop to... We can't say Scott Brooks. That's
Scott
kind
Brooks,
of unfair.
come on. He won Coach of the Year. Like, let's not be too.
Yeah,
harsh.
he has a trip to the finals and everything. Like,
you have to pick somebody like super incompetent, like an absolute joke, because that's what Edmund is. I honestly don't see an equivalent of Edmund in any sport, because no self-respecting sport would have that kind of a coach. You know what I mean? I'm serious.
Who's coached the Knicks for the last however many years?
Dude, you have Hornacek, you had Derek Fisher. Dude, even Derek Fisher, like, at least the guy is an accomplished player. You can't, no. There's Woodson, D'Antoni, those guys have coached the Knicks. I don't see why. No, nobody's that bad.
I can't think of it. Fred Hoiberg. He doesn't seem very good.
Fred Hoiberg is trash, but Edmund is kind of,
Fred Hoiberg revamped the Bulls' offense. I don't know what you're talking about.
Dude, The Bulls have been so trash for the past 2 years.
Did you see Rondo call everybody out?
Dude, Butler and Wade buried the team.
Oh, yeah, and then Rondo just, 10 minutes ago responded.
Oh, he responded. I thought he added to their...
No, he's against Butler and
Dude,
Wade.
Rondo's a hothead. Rondo should be the backup point guard in OKC. I swear Russell Westbrook kills him in 2 days.
I want Rondo in Cleveland. They need a playmaker.
They do need a playmaker. Oh, and Rondo hates being coached. He talked about. I don't know if he did or somebody who's coached them, maybe Doc Rivers or somebody. They talked about it, and Rick Carlisle as well. He talked about it because remember their whole their dispute in Dallas. That Rondo, he likes to sort of call the plays and all that. He doesn't like when the coach calls the plays and stuff. So imagine LeBron wanting to run a play and Rondo just wants to go with whatever he wants. I'm just assuming LeBron is the coach because he's the GM, he's the coach, he's everything. That would lead to an interesting situation. And LeBron probably hates those Boston guys anyway, except for Ray Allen, but
The worst fighter in the UFC, Alex Caceres, takes on Jason Knight. We got to go with Jason Knight.
Recently? Yeah, I'm going with Jason Knight on principle. I have never, ever picked Alex Caceres, and I never will.
No, Caceres hasn't fought since the Yair Rodriguez fight in last summer, 2016.
Oh, right.
Jason Knight doesn't have a Wikipedia page, so I don't know anything about him.
Well, he's going to be the guy who beats Alex Caceres.
Nate Marquardt is on this card as well. How old is Nate Marquardt?
30, let's see, 7.
I think you're cheating at this point.
Dude, I don't have, that I can't actually have access to my laptop. You know the story, yeah.
All right, let's wrap this up. I don't know what we talked about on this podcast.
Well, my college professors, we talked some Trump action.
NAFTA being a disaster, basketball.
Basketball, WrestleMania, the Rumble, Kevin Nash.
Everything but what this podcast is supposed to be about.
We talked about Tito Ortiz and Chael Sonnen, honestly.
That's true.
Except, and it was fairly exhaustive. Except we talked just as much about pro wrestling. So you know.
Whatever. All right, we will be back next week to preview or review UFC on Fox, and then there's a fight night card as well. Is there 2 cards next week? Oh no, thank God. There's a fight night card with the return of the Korean Zombie, so that's something. That'll be a quick preview.
Oh, wasn't he in the military? Didn't he get called up for the military? Oh wow, hey, good on him for being back. I think he's He's going to wish he's back in the military. That's all I'm saying.
The headline for not Korean Zombie's return, but Jan Blachowicz faces former interim UFC heavyweight championship challenger. Is there a more just
seriously, is that the label?
Arbitrary title? A former interim title challenger. Fantastic.
They actually labeled them as such, or are you? Oh wow! So interim title challenger. Let's see. I'm trying to remember who it could be.
And when I tell you who it is, it's even funnier.
So is it in the Tim Sylvia days or something?
No. It's recent. It's fairly recent. It's 2-3 years. Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's when Velasquez got hurt.
No. It's not. It's not heavyweight.
You said heavyweight.
Oh, light heavyweight. I'm sorry. Light heavyweight.
Oh, light heavyweight. Yeah. Oh, Alvis Samprou?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. That is so dumb. They just randomly created... Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay.
They randomly created the interim title for John Jones's return, even though he never lost the real title.
Yeah, and now it's Alvis Samprou. Former light heavyweight interim title challenger.
UFC, everybody.
They know how to market their guys.
They do. All right, we'll be back next week, and we'll talk about that nonsense. Whatever the outro is, I don't care.
No, it's we'll be back next week, and we'll see you right back here.
On the podcast.